And then he said, see, that was cool. And I was like, yeah, because I made it cool. A lot of drummers don't realize, like, there's so much free real estate right here. You do these things and you're like, oh, I'm not ever gonna use this. Spoiler alert, yes, you can.
Perfect. Dude, what a cool arrangement of that song.
Thank you.
That's, for anyone who doesn't know, that's a song by her.
Yes.
And hearing that with the panderos and stuff is so cool.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, I'm super excited to welcome Stanton Moore back to Drumeo. I was looking when the last time you were here was, and June of this year would have been 10 years. So we just squeaked it in 9 and a bit years, but it was time to have you back, and I'm so stoked you're here, man.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, it's been great checking out all y'all have been doing. Y'all have been really growing, progressing, and it's great to be a part of it and come back.
Yeah, man. So for any of you who aren't familiar with Stanton, you're a founding member of Galactic, and I guess as of now, you're a part owner of the legendary New Orleans venue Tipitina's.
That is true.
Which is a whole cool story we may get into, but if you're in New Orleans, go check out that place. I need to go myself. It looks like the coolest place.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get y'all there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great place. It was our favorite venue. You know, coming up, it's a lot of people's favorite venue. And then we had toured for 25 years, and it's still our favorite venue. So we just see ourselves as the current caretakers.
Yeah, love that, man. You're also the author of, I guess this is like a classic book now, Groove Alchemy. I think I bought this book like 10 years ago and worked through, there's like a lifetime of stuff in here. So check this out. I'm sure this is one of the best-selling drum books out there as of now on, there's tons of funk stuff in here and from your repertoire. You also run the Stanton Moore Drum Academy, so you can check out everything Stanton's posting over there. You have a whole community, tons of lessons about everything you're known for playing. So you can check all that stuff out. All the links are going to be down in the description for Stanton's socials, including your Drum Academy, so you can check all that stuff out. We also do this kind of thing on YouTube all the time where we have guests just like Stanton kind of sharing things here and there about their career, and we kind of dive into one topic in these streams, but we have tons of stuff in the members area as well. Stanton, you filmed some stuff on New Orleans drumming 9 years ago, which is still up there and watched all the time by the Drumeo members, and we filmed some really cool new workouts and workout series, which I'm super stoked on, kind of like transforming your rock playing into funk playing, and what kind of elements are involved in that.
Yeah,
so
I had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm anxious and excited for people to check it out, get some feedback. But we kind of came up with something that I think is going to be fun for everyone. To check out how you can take a very basic rock beat and transform it into a funk groove, and you know, bit by bit, step by step, like a 5-day program. And I think it came out pretty cool. So.
Nice. So that's going to be coming later this year. All this is going to be available at the link below, drumeo.com/trial, and you can try out Drumeo free for 7 days. And lastly, there's going to be a PDF for some of the stuff we're going through in this lesson, which we're going to get into in a few minutes. The link is in the description, and you can check out all the notation that he's prepped for this stuff. So I think that's everything for the formalities. I want to do another track and then get into some of this left side of the kit playing, which we all know is the most underutilized side of the kit, I would say.
We're going to talk about it. I mean, we'll talk about how I started getting into all this. You know, we'll play, like you said, but you know, a lot of drummers don't realize, like, there's so much free real estate right here at your disposal. And I came up with a very simple sticking that we'll talk about. And it's actually right here.
It's on the shirt.
On my shirt. And
you'll never forget it.
You'll never forget it. And it's super, super simple, but it's super effective. And that whole PDF you were talking about is all about this sticking. And a lot of what I play over here is based in that. Of course, I've come up with a lot of variations over the years, but this is the sticking that unlocked a lot of this for me. And we'll get into that in more of the lesson part of this live. But right now you want me to play a little bit?
We're gonna do one more track, and I also want to mention too, at the very end of the stream, we've got this table beside the kit with a bunch of mystery items that Stanton has no idea what they are.
I don't. Can we get the overhead real quick? So all this over here, just to demonstrate, like, you've got all this real estate over here, and they're surprising me with some stuff. I don't know what's under here. But part of, you know, why we're talking about this, part of what I want to talk about is, you know, what's really cool about all of this is you don't have to go out and buy a lot of expensive percussion. Of course, my companies don't want to say that. We want you to buy stuff.
The gear is nice.
No, we want you to buy stuff. But, you know, as a young kid, I would just start setting up TV trays. You can literally set a TV tray up here, put a towel on it, and enrage your parents' cabinets. And or go to the, you know, I used to go to the grocery store and buy Pyrex dishes. You know, I think the first cast iron pan I bought was not to cook in, but it was
to play drums.
It was to play. I brought a drumstick to the grocery store and like tapped on stuff, and I was like, you know, oh wow, this is cool, you know.
That's awesome.
And so you can really get creative, come up with some ideas. Hopefully, people will be inspired to to improvise and come up with their own variations on some of what I'm going to show and demonstrate. But if you don't have all this kind of stuff, you can just put up other things and improvise, and household items on a TV tray works, and you can come up with ideas that you can then apply when you buy some stuff.
Love it. So this next track we're going to do is called Dolla Diva from Galactic.
Yeah, this is a Galactic tune, and we recorded it one way, and then I do it different live where I incorporate more of this stuff, right? And I do that kind of live, and then go to the original groove on the verses and stuff. But this is a fun one. A lot of my students like this tune. A lot of my drum buddies like, that's cool. So I figured this would be a fun one for us to do.
Cool, let's do it.
All right.
Dude, it had the sticking in there.
Exactly.
I'm like, is that close to it or is that the sticking? And at the end, it's like, there it is.
It was pretty spot on.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, so I might as well, I'll take this off.
Reveal the sticking.
Reveal the sticking. So I'll reveal the sticking. So it's so simple. It's just left, left, right, left, right, left, right, right.
Yeah.
You could think of it as a reverse left paradiddle and a forward right paradiddle. I didn't come up with it that way. If you want to hear the story about how I came up with it, I'll tell you.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Because I think there's a good moral to the story. And the moral is always approach everything with a good attitude and always be down for suggestion, open to suggestion, and especially open to criticism, which I was not always when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I've known my friends in Galactic for a long, long time, and this happened at a Galactic rehearsal over 20 years ago, and we were practicing a Dirty Dozen brass band tune, and I was super psyched to be playing this tune. I've been working on all my, Johnny Vodakovich, slushy, New Orleans, snare drum stuff with stickings, and I thought I was getting pretty slick.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, we're gonna work on that tune. Great. Well, I'm gonna play all this stuff, right? So I walked into the studio or into the rehearsal with a preconceived notion of this is what I'm gonna do, right?
Yeah.
And it was very, very much like this, right? Right?
Yeah.
And it's a Dirty Dozen tune. The bass line is like ba-do-da, tuba line, sousaphone line. Da-do-da, do-do-da, do-da-da, do, ba-da-gong, dun-sh-gong, gan, dun-sh-gong, dun-dun-gong, gan, dun. All that, right?
Yeah.
So we played it once through, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm getting this together. And then our saxophone player, who was like one of my best friends and also sometimes my arch nemesis, he's like, man, yeah, that's cool, but what would you think about doing something on the toms? And I looked at him with this look. I'm gonna look at the camera. I looked at him with this look like, he was like, don't look at me like that.
Yeah.
he knew exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so he's like, man, don't look at me like that. Just try it. So I was like, oh my God. Back then, I was like, this is over 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man. And now our saxophone player is a great producer who has produced the first 2 Revivalist records, first 2 Trombone Shorty records, and he's produced a few other records that I've been parts of. And he's had that producer mind ever since back then, right?
Yeah.
So now I know that about some personalities, right? So that's cool. But at the time, I was like, ah. So, but I tried it. So I just threw sticks at drums, right? And I came up with something like this, right? So keep in mind, same bass line. Bo-do-da-do-da-da-ba, the melody is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Right?
Yeah.
So I played the tune, something like that, and then he said, see, that was cool. And I was like, yeah, because I made it cool.
Of course.
Of course. But I didn't want to tell him that while I was playing it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm coming up with something cool here. But I didn't want to let him know that. So then after the rehearsal dispersed, I stayed. And because at this time, I think the rehearsal was like in our house, right?
Yeah.
Me and the bass player's house. So I stuck around, and then I experimented with that. And so what I like to do is I like to improvise and then come up with something cool and then say, well, what is that? And then trace it back, right?
Yeah.
But I've, had a rudimental background. I've studied stick control. So I can improvise with stuff and then later figure out what is it, right?
Yeah.
So then after everybody left, I was like, okay, cool, they're gone. I don't want to admit that I came up with something cool, but I'm going to figure out what I can do with it, right?
Yeah.
So, shout out to a good friend of mine, Brian McCrae, who was using a Pondero, but he was using it over here. He was miking it from underneath, and I thought it sounded really cool. because I'm coming from New Orleans, so I love the Mardi Gras Indians, and I'm always trying to incorporate something that sounds like bass drum, floor tom, and tambourine, right? So when I heard the way Brian was miking the pandero from underneath, I was like, oh man, that's a great sound.
Yeah.
So I had gotten a pandero, and then I was like, well, if I'm leading with my left, I'm not leading with my left hand, but this thing is starting with my left hand. So let me see what happens if I bring it over here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then I said, all right, well, what am I doing? I'm doing something like this. I'm gonna slow it down, and I'm gonna play this sticking. I'm gonna try to play it verbatim. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's left, left, right, left, right, left, right, right. Right? So pick it up. I think I was playing it verbatim, not varying it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, all right, well, cool. What is that? Okay, it's left, left, right, left, right, left, right, right. That's the first part of it. Then what is the second part of it? When I come over here to the snare, it's left, left, right, left, right, left, right, right. Oh, it's the same sticking for 4 beats, but it's a 2-beat sticking. It's only, 2 beats worth of 16th notes long, but I was getting 4 beats worth of clave out of it. So right? So I was like, whoa, the clave is split up between different voices. That's cool. All right, so now, what happens if I take and put my left hand over here on something else? So at that time, I took a pandero, put it over here, right? But I love giving credit where credit is due. I got the idea for incorporating the pandero from my friend Brian McCrae. But I was like, he's putting it over here. Let me put it over here. All right, so then I'm like, okay, here's the sticking. Then I'm like, okay, that's cool. What happens if I put the right hand on something else? What happens if I put the right hand on the cowbell? Great. All right, then we got these little, I like to call them, the ting-tings or the tung-tungs.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens if I start moving that around, right? Now keep in mind, this is still strictly this sticking.
Yeah.
Okay? Left, left, right, left,
Nothing
right,
else.
left, right, right. That's right. We haven't even gotten into variations yet.
Yeah.
And then, so, okay, I'm like, wow, all right, that's cool. Bring it up to speed. Like, I at the time I was like sometimes playing with George Porter Jr. and still do, original bass player for the Meters. And he likes to do tunes. He'll be like, Bo Diddley beat. Right?
Yeah.
And so up until I came up with this, I'd be like, okay, Bo Diddley beat. Now with this, and I'm a big fan of David Garibaldi. I love the way that he takes different stickings and modernizes things. So I was like, I wanted to contemporize, modernize, some of the stuff I was doing, some of the New Orleans stuff. So I was like, okay, well, Bo Diddley beat's cool like that, but what happens if I go from that and then use this sticking to come up with this new kind of contemporized, modernized Bo Diddley beat? Now, I admit, you might get fired for that, but I tried that with George Porter Jr. He dug it.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've used that as the beat for. I would do it in the middle of Fire on the Bayou, and then one time in sound check in Japan, sound checking with Leo Nocentelli, and I started playing that. He turns around, bro, what is that? I said, oh, it's this beat. I've been playing it like behind your solo and stuff. He's like, bro, let's do that from Jump, which means do that from the top.
Yeah.
Do that from Jump Street. Do that from getting out the gate. So you gotta introduce these things gingerly sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Know your boss.
Right. Know your boss. Exactly. And if somebody says, if it's your first time on a gig and somebody says Bo Diddley beat, well then you might want to do that. Right. But so I figured I could use it as like kind of like a contemporized Bo Diddley thing. All right, cool. But then I realized, well, if I'm getting a backbeat here, and we know that it's only 2 beats long, if I'm getting a backbeat on beat 4, can I get a backbeat on beat 2? Spoiler alert, yes, you can.
Perfect.
So then I was like, well, wait a minute. If I'm getting this, right? And then that's cool. And then I was doing the mambo bass drum pattern.
Yeah.
But then that was a little stagnant. So I put a different bass drum pattern under it. And this is a bass drum pattern that you can find in the tune Mr. Magic, but it's also a go-to bass drum pattern in a lot of go-go stuff, right? So. A lot of people who are familiar with me already, they're like, yeah, we've seen this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that part, a lot of people may have seen. This is true, but this is, a lot of people haven't seen this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the things that I've utilized in my playing, and I can trace it back to this sticking: left, left, right, left, left, right. How did I come up with that? I came up with that by begrudgingly trying something that my saxophone player asked me to do.
Yeah.
Didn't want to tell him in the moment. He knows now, though. Didn't want to tell him in the moment.
Respect.
Right. Didn't want to tell him in the moment. But I was like, whoa, this might be cool. So then I came up with all these variations on it. And I'm about to show you a bunch of other stuff that I've since come up with. But what that started helping me realize, like, whoa, I can like play this sticking on all kinds of other stuff, right? Just using that sticking. So the moral of this story is always approach things with a good attitude. Don't be afraid to try things, even if you think it might sound silly, which I thought, street beat on the toms, that's gonna sound silly.
You're crazy.
Yeah, you're crazy. And then, but now, like Mardi Gras, I love Mardi Gras. My wife loves Mardi Gras. And we go and we try to see as many of the marching bands as we can. And because of this sticking, I can now approximate some of the things that I'm hearing in the streets. So I'm mixing like some of the snare drum second line stuff with some of the marching band stuff that I'm hearing. And it's because of this sticking, and it just opened me up to try a bunch of stuff over here. So the moral of the story is, if you try stuff with a good attitude, you might come up with something that you hadn't thought of, or you might never have thought of, and then it might be something that you wind up eventually presenting on Drumeo.
Yeah, and I think there's like another lesson in this too, especially for anyone who's new to playing drums. This is just one sticking pattern. So imagine what you could do by changing one of those left or right hand stickings in that pattern. Like a basic paradiddle, you could take so far.
Yeah.
So don't underestimate the power of a sticking pattern or a rudiment.
And that's why we learn these things. And like I said, when I'm playing, I don't think about those things. I just sit down and I try to improvise. But then it's because I had a good foundation, studied with Marty Hurley. He took me through through all the stick control, and I learned a lot of rudimental foundation from him.
Yeah.
And you know, we talked about it at dinner the other night, but John Wooten, shout out to my brother John Wooten.
Yeah.
He also studied with Marty Hurley. And you know, Marty just gave me a really strong foundation. So then I can just sit down and I can improvise with stuff, and then I can quickly figure out what it is later.
Yeah.
But you know, I like to liken it to studying stick control, studying rudiments is like Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, or in the new movie, jacket on, jacket off, right? And it's like, you do these things and you're like, oh, I'm not ever gonna use this. And then somebody puts a bunch of stuff you've never seen before and you start improvising. I'm not gonna think about what stickings I'm using. I'm just gonna improvise.
Well, you've worked on that
But it's because
stuff.
I've done enough wax on, wax off that I feel confident to be on live and have you surprise me, hopefully.
Love it. So before we get into some of the variations and some of the mystery stuff, let's do another track.
Sure.
We've got Nobody's Baby.
Yeah.
What should we know about this one?
Okay, so this is off of a record that I did with Eric Krasno. This is Krasno Moore project. This is the same record that the first tune came from. Okay, so we did an organ trio record together, and in the organ trio tradition, it's very common to play instrumental versions of popular tunes.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do a whole covers record of all female artists.
Cool.
But do it instrumental and do it as an organ trio.
Nice.
And we had special guests. We had Branford Marsalis on a track. We had Robert Randolph on a track, and Corey Henry on keys on a track.
Nice.
So this tune, admittedly, I didn't do the original with any left side stuff. So I might do some, maybe, but maybe not. I'm not gonna force it. But we're getting away from the left side stuff for a second to play this track. This is just a funky rendition, our rendition of a tune called Nobody's Baby by the great Sharon Jones.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right.
great tune, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So lots of cool, like, unexpected rhythmic stuff in there where, like, it comes back on, like, you expect, like, a big crash or something, but it's right back to the hats.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Thank you. And that's, that's what's fun about doing instrumental records. It's like, I love having fun with some of the textures, some of the dynamics.
Yeah.
That one was pretty straightforward, funk. But yeah, you can have fun with some of the little breaks and little things that you do with it, yeah.
Love it. So we've talked about where the pattern came from, how you came up with it. Where do we go from here? Variations and all that good stuff.
Great. I'm glad that you asked that. Okay, so, during COVID, I set up drums in the house, and then I actually brought all this stuff over to my house because, I wasn't really going to the studio because, we were all trying to be by ourselves. So I brought a bunch of stuff to the house, much to my wife's chagrin, and started just kind of improvising and, experimenting with stuff over here. So it's like, all right, cool. I started coming up with some things that I thought were kind of cool. So I'll play you like one of the things that I started kind of coming up with, right? And then I'll show you what it is, right? So I just started improvising, and it was stuff like this. So I was like, man, okay, that's cool. And then I started doing stuff like this. Like, I would maybe go from here, left hand on cowbell, right hand on a Pandero, higher tuned. And then come over here, left hand on a different Pandero, right hand on a different cowbell, okay? So same kind of thing, right? So I'll play kind of what I was improvising with and then show you what it is. Just improvising and, just going into different things. Here's. Right? Okay. So I must have improvised with that for a while, and then, like I said, I was like, all right, then I'll get away from it, and then I'll imagine what I was doing, and then I'll do it on a single surface, right? So I'm like, okay, what am I doing? It's like, and sometimes I might even do this like tapping out, right? Yeah. But I would play the drums when I could be loud, and then when I had to be quiet, like if my wife was asleep or, after she was like, okay, that's enough. Then
enough of that groove.
That's right, that's why I heard it. So then I'll sit down, and sometimes it might be on a pad, sometimes it's with rubber tip sticks. Mm-hmm. Like I love carrying those in my bag, and then I can just shed anywhere. Yeah. Sometimes just tapping on my lap. So I'm like, okay, what was I doing? It was. So I'm gonna slow it down. Okay, so what is that? You can tell me what that is.
I've heard you say it.
So it's just paradiddles started on the left with flams on the diddles. Yeah. Some people like to call them Choo-Choos.
Yes.
So it's literally left-handed Choo-Choos. Yeah. Now I'm gonna pick it up in tempo. Now, what happens if I play that? Now, this is the beauty of when you take patterns and you add flams into them. or like David Garibaldi, I mentioned him earlier, he would put in Swiss triplets and things. And then, that's a huge innovation, right? What he did was such an innovation. And then, I started slowing what he was doing down and like playing it with a feel in between straight and swing, and then splitting up the hands.
Yeah.
And then check it out. That rhythm.
Yeah.
So this hand is playing that rhythm. Guess what this hand's playing? It's playing the same rhythm started on beat 2. So that both hands are playing the same rhythm. One started on beat 1, one started on beat 2.
Yeah.
It's just a happy accident of this rudiment, Choo-Choos, right? And so I got a chance to have dinner with David before I got to know him too well. And I told him I was doing this with some of his ideas. He's like, if David can be very dry. He was like, a student was telling me about that. I was like, oh really? And I was like fearing for my life. He's like, very cool.
Nice. Just what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Oh,
and this was years ago. But the idea of adding flams into stickings, I mean, I got that from David.
Yeah.
And then I just started improvising with it and coming up with different things. So, I realized, okay, well, that rhythm, that's like, the most prevalent rhythm in Mardi Gras Indian stuff. And it's also what the Cubans call the cinquillo, which means, it's 5 notes. We don't count it that way. But this is a very classic rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So, right? Right?
Yeah.
And then bar 2 is this sticking, right? Is adding like a Swiss triplet to that part of it. So, but I don't think of it that way. I just improvise, so where do we go from there, you're asking? You start improvising. And hopefully some of the stick controls, some of the rudimental stuff that you've worked on will start to come out. And you just start experimenting,
Yeah.
And then those are some of the things I've come up with. And, in Mardi Gras Indian tradition, there's a lot of... Right?
Yeah.
And then you start playing in between these.
Yeah.
And if you come up with something cool, repeat it.
Yeah. And this is why you got to learn your Choo-Choos.
That's right.
Eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to play like that.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. It's cool. Like there's almost like a cascara kind of rhythm in one of the hand parts you're playing there, or like part of it.
Right.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about it. I'm not thinking about playing 2 different rhythms.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about playing these interlocking things.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to take this further, do we get to reveal what your the secret mystery items are?
Sure.
I'm excited about this, man. So
I'm a little bit terrified.
So for everyone out there watching, our drum tech Tyson, who sets up every kit that you see on Drumeo.
And he did a great job. Shout out to Tyson.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Total beast. So he went shopping before Stanton came here, and this is what you're gonna have to work with. So
oh Lord,
we're gonna reveal this. There's a whole bunch of different stuff under here. So
nice.
you've got a kitchen sink.
I love it, literally.
You've got a bowl.
Beautiful.
a small frying pan
Yep.
that costs $6.99.
Yep.
And I guess like another kind of metallic bowl.
Beautiful. So, oh, that's gonna be great. And then, so that's gonna be a little quiet. So maybe I'll put that. But let's see. Oh, that's gonna sound
That's
great.
a good one.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. But, and then this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now we'll
Some of
reverse.
those are definitely better than others. I don't know if I would recommend the upside down kitchen sink.
Well, let's see.
But the bowl and the other little metallic thing are pretty good.
Well, you know, that's a good point, though. See? Look, sometimes you just got to experiment. But this is the thing. You can do this with household items, right? And then experiment, because now it turned it up the other way, and it got a whole nother thing. And by the way, I stopped because I realized I'm not even varying this. This is it.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
So, yeah, I mean, you see, I could do this, like, I could do this all day.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I'm gonna move these things a little closer, and then.
And again, like, that just goes to show, like, the sticking pattern is exactly the same, even if you are varying it a little bit. But when you're moving that around to different surfaces, it turns into an entirely new thing.
Right, now, let's see, let's move these up a little touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and admittedly, trying to get to these angles is a little challenging, but this gives you ideas, like, you know, oh wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so my point is, get creative. You know, like, do what you want to do with it, right? But find items that sound good to you. But the point of this is to show that I've never played these things before, but still I can do something with them.
Yeah.
Just based off of very simple ideas.
Yeah.
Right?
Someone was saying one of the bowls, or the two bowls, sound like Danny Carey's electronic effect pads.
But much cheaper.
Much cheaper, $6.99.
There we go, yeah.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, we're almost at the hour, and we have two more tracks we're going to close with. I want to do both of them because they're, I selfishly just want to hear you play both of them.
All right.
And I'm sure all of you out there want to see Stanton play more drums. So
I love it.
That's what we're here for.
Cool. And before we play those, is it okay to mention again that there is a PDF a free PDF
Yeah.
in the link in the description that is a long lesson about this sticking and a bunch of the variations and all that. And that's available. So
yeah, all the stuff Stanton has filmed with us here this week. There's new stuff coming on YouTube throughout the next year, and some stuff exclusive for the Drumeo members that's going to be really cool. So all that's available at the link below, so you can check that out. The 2 tracks we're going to close with, the first one is going to be Maple Plank.
Yep.
And the second one is You Know I'm No Good.
Yeah.
So anything we should know about either of those?
Maple Plank is from one of my organ trio records with Robert Walter and Will Bernard. And those records I'm re-releasing digitally very soon. So those will be, they're available on vinyl, but they'll be available digitally very soon. And this is one of the tunes from one of those records.
Yep.
And then the last tune we're going to do is an Amy Winehouse tune from the Krasno Moore record.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's long overdue, but we made it happen before the 10-year mark.
Yes.
So we'll definitely be doing more in the future, and always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll let Stanton take it away with the last two tracks.
Yeah.